Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and weekend. First off, I want to say thanks for understanding over the last 2 evenings not making a video. I thought it was a good kind of breaking point with just not a ton going on. So just took a couple of evenings. One last night, just took a date night with my wife, and then the night before just taking a little breather. Honestly, just taking a little break, which will happen especially as we get into summer. And when we get kind of deep into summer, there's not a ton to talk about except that it's going to be hotter than Hades, especially here in the south, and some pulse thunderstorms. So. But appreciate y'all understanding that, which I know most of you folks, it goes without even mentioning, but I definitely want to always let you guys know. But with that being said, we're going to talk about a couple things today. It's going to be very cold, like a January type day across portions of really the entire central and eastern U.S. It's going to feel like January out there. Some areas will see a lot of snow just kind of flying around, but not really a lot adding up. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but certain areas could certainly see a dusting. Talk about a little feature we could see today that might go across Ohio. It's kind of developing across the Ohio Valley now and could sweep across areas like Pennsylvania and surrounding sections of each state around that. This could catch a lot of people off guard. And then we're going to talk about the Texas snow. When I say Texas snow, Texas is a very large state, as you guys know. So it's a very small section of southwest Texas that is seeing snow this morning. We'll continue to do so over the next 24 hours. And then we'll talk about everybody else, and we'll take a look going forward. Not going to stay long on it, but I'm expecting severe weather to begin to become another topic, I would say, a bigger topic here in the next week or so. I'm seeing a pattern change. I'm not saying we're completely done with the cold air, but I'm starting to see the ridge show up again here in the eastern and central U.S., which means there will be trough ejections across the middle of the country, which is going to, aid in bringing up more moisture out the Gulf of Mexico and areas of the south. So we'll talk about that and what that means. Severe weather possible late next work week. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that and so others can do so too. So if we take a look at water vapor loop, this morning, you can actually see the push directly out the north of just drier air. Now, with this cold air going over, to relatively warm, they're definitely not warm by any means, Great Lakes. But the thing is, hardly any of I don't even know what sections of the Great Lakes are frozen right now, but I would argue that probably hardly none of them are. But due to the fact that they aren't, we're still getting a lake-enhanced or lake effect snow across the Great Lakes. Really already have been overnight, but into today, and then off Lake Erie in Ontario, it'll really ramp up a little bit later this evening. So that'll kind of be a big storyline, not really big, but it will be a storyline up here in the upper Midwest, Ohio Valley, and eventually into sections of the Northeast. And I'm expecting just a vigorous, maybe snow squall that might really rip through areas of Pennsylvania throughout the late morning, afternoon hours. Down here, you can see there's an active southern jet, so you're getting a lot of just water in the atmosphere. And with this, it's suppressed south, so all the action is going to get suppressed out into the Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico. But, for you folks down here in Texas, there's enough shallow kind of Arctic air down in place to kind of develop a little bit of snow in southwest Texas. It's pretty impressive. And in fact, you look at watches and warnings, it's pretty quiet. This huge area in this purple shaded color, that's freeze warning. It's going to be a cold night tonight. And then freeze watches in the, this blue color right here. And then down here in southwest Texas, you got winter weather advisories in one giant county, like the size of 20% of South Carolina, which is the state I live in. Probably not that big, but it has a winter storm warning. There's some higher elevations right in here, just south of Fort Stockton, Texas. And, you're already dealing with snow this morning. Winter weather advisories were upgraded from winter storm watches. So, Erie up to just south of Buffalo. You guys are going to get a little snow, especially cranking up later today into tonight. Same thing for you folks in northern New York State, and then basically the entire western half of Michigan. Winter weather advisories, even some winter storm warnings up for northern Michigan. And then what areas of the western UP and Michigan have winter storm warnings that are continuing. And then northern Wisconsin, a few counties up there that have winter storm warnings. So let's talk about what's going to happen in the southeast today. Picked up a lot of rain overnight in certain areas of the southeast. It rained enough at my house that they've canceled the soccer game for, today was the pitcher day. Today was a soccer game, but they canceled the soccer game today just due to standing water in the field. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, kind of happy they did. It just kind of, I don't think it was going to be a great day for soccer out there. Even if the sun did come out and everything cleared up, it'd be kind of windy, cold, kind of the ground would probably still be damp out there. So it's probably a great day just to call it off. But, at the same time, I was certainly looking forward to it. But I think, later, I think if you're along the coastal regions of the Carolinas and certainly in Florida, where I think you guys could even get some thunderstorm action starting up as early as here in the next hour or so in the northern peninsula of Florida. But, if you keep going down to Florida, the front stalls. So, basically the southern half of Florida stays warm. It's just getting to that time of the year where these cold fronts don't really fully make it. They can, but they don't start to really make it all the way to the southern end of Florida anymore. I mean, it'll probably be a little chilly, and it might eventually drift all the way to the end. But in general, they struggle to reach all the way down here like this far south. But due to the fact that this stalling, you could get on and off showers and storms here in and around the Jacksonville area, down to Gainesville, everywhere in between. You could have just rounds of showers and storms in this area all day today. You might hang on to some clouds along the coastal regions of the southeast due to the stalled boundary right here. And this will, with all the rain right off the coast, might, keep a kind of a cloud bank over the coastal regions. But a lot of areas it'll be a beautiful day. The sun will finally come out. I mean, a lot of areas out here to the west, sun's already out. It's just a chilly morning. But the sun will come out, and but it will just be chilly. It's going to be a cold day. We'll talk about that here in a second. The northeast, same kind of deal. Rain will clear out, and then you have this vigorous setup where you have a lot of snow showers firing off here. A lot of lift, almost convective in nature. I would not be surprised if somebody gets a little thunder snow today. Just with a lot of lift in the atmosphere. And this is what I'm talking about. I'll zone in on here in a second. But as early as really, I would say, midday today, some snow showers begin to enter western New York State, Pennsylvania. And then this is the snow squall I'm talking about. This could be an intense snow squall. It could move through places like Pittsburgh, up to the southern tier of New York State. It could blast through State College sometime later this afternoon. And I think it'll lose some steam, but I think it'll make it all the way to Binghamton, over the Finger Lakes of New York State, Syracuse. And, it might hang on down here in West Virginia, too. Might go across areas of Maryland. And then that moves on through, and I think sometime this evening, the lake effect snows really kick off Erie and in Ontario. And, it's not going to be a prolonged event, but they'll be pretty intense. I mean, look at this band coming off the eastern shores of Lake Ontario. This could be some intense snow for a couple hours, but it's not going to remain. We'll get into Sunday evening. And I think this little piece of energy starts to affect areas of Maine. I think, the entire interior Northeast could get some kind of snow squally weather up here. But to zoom in on this snow squall today, do not let this catch you off guard if you're in Pennsylvania. This will move through. I think it'll enter the state of Pennsylvania around just after lunchtime. We'll try to blast through Pittsburgh. Might get some snow squall warnings from this. This will be a brief kind of whiteout condition. It might put a coating on everything. It's very cold up here. But this will blast through, and, you probably see this coming. It's just, I'll mention this in yesterday morning's video, and it looks like it's going to make it all the way to New York City, but it looks like it kind of falls apart. But don't let this catch you off guard, especially in the entire western half of Pennsylvania and down here in West Virginia, too. You guys could experience this, especially in the northern half of West Virginia. It'll be interesting seeing what this does on radar today. Down here in the south central U.S., really the only story here is rain and deep in Texas. And it's, higher elevation enough here in southwest Texas, kind of south of Fort Stockton, for it to be falling and snowing. In fact, we look at the radar down here, and it is snowing. This is the radar out of Odessa. In fact, you had a report earlier of some sleet in Houston. I don't know if that's legitimate, but, I hope that nobody's making any false reports. But that's interesting. I mean, sleet on March 18th in Houston's, pretty uncommon, but it's snowing down here. No real reports in this area. It's still kind of early in the morning. Not that early, but would be awesome if some reports would come in from this area. We'll see if it can try to snow in San Angelo today. Hopefully I pronounced that city right. I think it's San Angelo. Let's see if we can get any reports of snow in this area. Let's see if maybe it can mix with some snow here in these cities just north of San Antonio, maybe in San Antonio today. That'll be very interesting. But this will continue. We'll get into about midday today. It's just this moisture is being suppressed by this high pressure, so it's not able to really move deeper into this chillier air. But I would argue it would be a cold rain anyways. This is really elevation driven. Believe it or not, for you folks that don't know a lot about geography and stuff like that and where mountains are, which I don't, I wouldn't believe everybody does. And I understand if you're not interested in that. I get it totally. But there are some higher elevations here in western, really southwest areas of Texas. So this is really why this is driven. So, some of this moisture will try to creep north again this evening. But models look like they're kind of trended to, this second push of moisture staying really far south. But if you're deep in southwest Texas right down here, could just keep snowing. Could. And then this might begin to taper off as we get a little bit later into Sunday morning. But if we were to keep going here and look at snowfall accumulation between now and tomorrow evening, a few more inches are possible. Any of these little higher hills, higher peaks, especially here right in this little southern area, it could get, a half a foot of snow. I don't pretend to know the exact landscape down here, but I know there is definitely some higher elevations. So there's not a ton of cold air in place. It's mid-late March at this point. But, it's a setup that favors this for sure. So let me know if any folks are watching from this area. It'd be awesome to know. And let me know how much snow you're seeing. That would be awesome. Up here in the north central U.S., which includes the Midwest, upper, Ohio Valley, places like that, I really, the lake effect snow is already kind of kicking off Lake Superior. But here in the next few hours, there'll be a huge enhancement in moisture for a few hour period. So I'll stop it. It's about 12 p.m., 1 p.m. Here in the next few hours. And all of a sudden, you just get an eruption of very almost convective in nature like snow, meaning it'll be very heavy at times. It really will. And it's covering the entire state of Michigan, UP, and the southern portions. And it'll be really interesting to see how long this lasts, but these are some really intense bands stretching all the way off Lake Superior across the northern end of Lake Michigan and then into these northern sections of Michigan right here where you have winter storm warnings. So a very January wintry type day out here. And these will try to make it all the way into northern Indiana, even all the way down to Chicago. Some snow could start falling later this afternoon, Milwaukee, Green Bay, down here to Detroit, Cleveland. I'm not expecting a snowstorm by any means, but it'll be a wintry type day out there. Certainly it will not feel like spring one bit. It'll be very cold. Temperatures will be well locked in below freezing, even for high temperatures. But you can notice it doesn't last that long. It tapers off, and you got some lingering lake effect snow off Lake Michigan. And then by the time we get into Sunday morning, things chill out. And that's it. Snow between now and, Sunday evening. You see these few tenths of an inch of snow here in Indiana, Ohio, that, is trying to pick up on kind of the snow squalls and just the burst of snow we're going to get down here today. So, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets a coating of snow that maybe is not quite expecting it in their actual forecast, but don't let it surprise you at all. Same thing with Michigan. If you're outside these lake effect snow regions, you can get a few tenths of an inch of snow, maybe a quick inch of snow. But if you're hugging Lake Michigan, the western ends of Michigan, you're certainly going to get at minimum a few inches of snow today. And then it's picking up on these snows, the lake effect snows in New York State from Erie and Ontario, where a few to maybe as much as several inches of snow could fall from this. I know this is really wide on the screen, but hopefully it helps. Temperatures today, man, it's cold, guys. You're only going to get into the teens in the areas of the eastern Dakotas. The ridge is starting to build in, though, quickly. This will totally take over this air mass and replace it. But like I said, down here, and if you're basically from Orlando, point south to Miami, you guys are summertime. This front stalls. It'll be a totally different world from the southern peninsula of Florida than from the panhandle of Florida. Okay, it'll be in the 50s in the panhandle, southern areas in the 80s. So there'll be a sharp cutoff right near Gainesville or Orlando or something like that. January type day across the south, 40s and 50s for highs. But, look, Tennessee, very cold day today, 40s, maybe even just 30s. Once you start to get into Kentucky points north, you start to get locked in below freezing, well below average. And this is the cold air we're talking about. I had a comment on Twitter saying, what happens to well below temperatures for March? Well, I never thought the entire month of March would be below average, but there was some obvious pretty cold shots of air. And this will lead to a cold rest of the weekend. And so it doesn't seem like we've had a really, really warm weekend in a long time. I think we had one a couple weeks ago. But anyways, cold across the Northeast, but the core of the coldest air is right here in the Great Lakes region, the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, places like that, where it'll just be in the 20s today. So moving forward, and we'll talk about this a little bit, severe weather is always tough to talk about in the long range just because it really shows its true self once we get into short range models, and we're not even close to that. We need to get all the way to about midweek next week before we do that. But what we can look at is a storm signal. So we're getting into Monday. That system that we were talking about off the southeast, this is not going to happen. If it does, I'm not expecting much. So, call it how it is. This is a system that just did not evolve. We were thinking that there was a chance this could be a powerful system in the southeast. No, it's not going to happen. It's fully suppressed, and it's not even showing moisture off the coast of the southeast anymore. But this is what we watch. We watch a couple trough ejections, basically meaning low pressure pops off the Rockies or somewhere and shoots across the middle of the country. And with a ridge beginning to build, that's what it will do. It'll shoot, it'll eject, and then move across the plains, and then that typical track we've seen literally all winter. This potentially could bring some severe weather for Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but that's not really the big story. This is a weaker system. A weaker system's not going to pull much low-level moisture out the south. But then we watch this bigger one right into here. Getting to Thursday morning, this one will try to be a little bit stronger right into here. But like I said, there's some weird jumping back and forth. Like you got this one right here, and then you got that one right there. And then this is really the one that the Storm Prediction Center is honing in on. So this is like 2 a.m. Friday morning. Okay, so the timing is different. The Euro looks a little bit different, but here's the main system that we need to really, there's going to be a couple systems before it, but this is the big system we really need to watch out for as we're getting into late this week, Thursday into Friday. This will pop off here, really dig into the southwest, and then begin to eject across the southern plains and then across the Midwest. And then this will have a chance to bring some nasty, severe weather for Texas and Oklahoma, and eventually Friday a little bit further east, maybe into the Mississippi Valley. We'll have to figure that out. This could be a corridor, pretty heavy rain across the Midwest and Ohio Valley, and potentially could bring a winter storm for areas to the north. But, we're getting into this time next weekend, so this is pretty far out. But, anytime you got a sub 990 millibar low pressure ejecting across the middle of the country, you're just asking for severe weather somewhere to the south. And that looks to be the case potentially. Okay, and this will continue. And then you got another system that, is not really being talked about because it's 8-9 days out, so it's not worth really digging deep on. But what we do know is with this one system we just talked about, the first system will bring some moisture into the picture. So you got to watch out for that. We'll start getting winds coming out the south. Dew points rise into the 60s as far north as Oklahoma and Arkansas. But then it's this one right here that really brings a huge warm sector all the way up into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and then everybody in the south. This brings the return of very moist air across areas of the south central U.S. and the deep south. And then we'll see what happens with this. But this is likely will be a severe weather event. And then it looks like if you were to keep the run going, you have another low pressure. You got to watch out for that one. And it looks like we're getting back to that pattern change, or that pattern where we're just going to have mini systems shooting across the middle of the country. It's getting to that time of the year, guys. Second half of March into April is always a lot of severe weather across the south. Once you get late into April, it begins to shift a little bit more north into a little bit further north in the plains. But, the southern plains still have it all the way till May and June. But between now and through April, this is when severe weather season can really get going. But as of now, for Thursday, there's a 15% risk. That's like a slight risk at day 6. Okay, there's a 15% risk for a pretty small area, but covers, some big cities like Oklahoma City and very close to Dallas. So, we need to watch. I can almost guarantee you for day 7, for Friday, there's probably going to be a 15% risk issued, maybe sometime tomorrow or the next day. But we'll continue to watch this. This will be the next big topic, and we'll try to figure it out as we go. But it's always hard to talk about severe weather, especially when we're not in range of these short-range models. But we can talk about what we do know, of course, as always. But that's all I got. You guys have a great Saturday. I'll be with y'all this evening, and have a good day.